What is the worst thing that has happened at a high school reunion party that you attended? My therapist encouraged me to go to my 10-year, which, in retrospect, was probably a play for job security. Edit. Oh wow. Thanks for my first awards and gold, kind Reddit strangers. Ahaha, therapists really do be shooting in the dark sometimes. At my 20-year reunion, 2 decades after high school, 2 guys got arrested for fist fighting on the sidewalk outside the bar we went to Friday night. Why were they fighting? One of the guys slept with the other guy's girlfriend in high school and drunkenly brought up the 20 years ago fling. Neither of them married her or even dated her after high school. Those idiots got charges 20 years later for her, though. It was a 5th-year reunion. One of my former classmates attended with his girlfriend, but then he disappeared and had left her alone almost the entire time just to find him BS deep in Miss Musa. Our ex-English teacher, St. went down, and end of the fight he left with Miss Musa and let the girl leave alone. My friends and I felt so bad we followed her and gave her girl advice. Apparently they've been sleeping together since 10th grade. Miss Musa was like 5 years older than us. They are still together. Both shitty people, I guess. My husband invited the entire party to our home. The reunion was being held at a place built to hold parties. Well, the majority of the people that were invited came, so we had 100 plus crammed into a 2,500 square foot house, and a bunch of them decided to jump into our pool, which was ice cold. I was not pleased with my husband. Sounds like a killer party though. Graduated in 2008 and not a single word about any reunion. Reunions seem to have waned in popularity since social media blew up. You don't need to catch up in person when you see every inane detail of your former classmates lives online. I think it's probably a combination of that and longer time spent in early adulthood, continuing education. A few decades ago, the 10-year reunion would have been an opportunity to see how your classmates were settling into their own lives. Now we know every detail through social media. And a lot are still in the early stages of the process of stepping out on their own. Moving out of home, finishing education, etc. A lot of schools don't do them. It's one of those traditions that sometimes pop up. And it's much harder to do with high schools with thousands of people. Unofficial reunion. Essentially all the people who could stand each other coming together to get drunk and have a good time. One of the wives vomited on the host due to alcohol poisoning. I think it's the last time I've ever seen anyone except my lifelong friends. 2. From high school. It's been nice. Found out less than an hour before that my now ex-wife was cheating on me. 10-year reunion invite came up and I thought, yeah, looks like it could be fun. I noticed the venue as fancy restaurant. Disappointed. Expecting some sort of party. Room is very limited. For a class of over 100 you would think they would have picked a venue with over 25 capacity. I start reaching out to all the friends I've kept in touch with. Not one of them is even remotely interested in going. My old high school best friend suggests we catch up at his and drink. Instead, haven't seen him in years, so I bail on the reunion. Turns out almost no one went. One of the girls that organized the thing was begging my mate to go, because she was so embarrassed how little people had RSVP'd. She ended up bailing herself. Turns out for the 10 people that actually went, half of which organized it, they had to be split up, since they booked a place that was not intended for large groups of people. Unironically, the same group that organized it took it upon themselves to organize our end-of-school formal Aussie for prom. They decided for themselves that we didn't want to go with the original plan and completely replanned it without really consulting the general student body. So many people bailed on it that they had to start inviting ex-students. Dropped out. Changed schools. Expelled. Takes some real ST to get expelled from a Catholic school in Australia. just to meet the minimum capacity the venue required to move forward with the date. Honestly, I know they meant WEPL. But this group ruined the formal for a lot of people. I don't know why I expected anything good from their reunion. Apparently the after party was wild. Though. Someone almost got thrown off the boat. Literally into the water at 2 in the morning. And a guy we know copped a DK in the eye. Edit. Well, this blew up. Thank you. All. To answer a few questions a lot of you have asked. He woke up the next day. And sat up without opening his eyes. He had been sleeping on the floor. And someone was standing over him with his DK out. Why was it hard? I don't know. I don't want to know. Lol. The after party was of the formal. And the after party is called the kick-ons. I'm sure the restaurant could have catered to 10 people. I assume some rocked up unannounced. If you get expelled from a Catholic school, at least in Australia, you cannot attend any other Catholic school. My school, at least, were hesitant to expel. As a result, they had told us this. But I can't remember if it was because they wanted to keep kids in Catholic schools. Or if it was because we were preparing for the HSC. Aussie version of finals. Good old Aussie after parties. There's always that one dude who either whips his DK out or gets BT naked. Always. We'd been there less than an hour. Having a great time reconnecting. Suddenly an old friend approached and said, "Is that your wife over there? She's pretty hammered," and as we watched, she tripped and fell face first. Full body crash onto a 12-top table where many of my old classmates were sitting. The table broke. Food and drinks flew everywhere. I walked over, scooped her up and half carried, half walked her out the door. She took Xanax before going, unbeknownst to me, and was an alcoholic who started slamming drinks as soon as she got there. So, good times. I don't know whether to laugh or ask if she's okay. Those two things aren't always mutually exclusive. Lol. Is she okay? I asked a classmate about her husband. She told me, he can go FK himself. They just got divorced. I asked another classmate about his kids. His wife left him and took the kids. Unannounced. The special ed kids got drunk and 2 of them started fight over a girl. My high school ex got drunk, pinned me against the wall and jammed her tongue down my throat right in front of my wife and her husband. Maybe not the worst night of my life, but it was definitely interesting. Edit. Sorry everyone. Too many pronouns. She stuck her tongue down my throat in front of my wife and my classmate's husband. My buddy took a headbutt to the face from a kid he used to bully. So that was awesome. My mother-in-law passed away a few years ago at the age of 90. Her reunions were annual at a restaurant on the same day every year. Because there is 4 of them left. One day a single person is going to show up and be all alone. Not guaranteed. Some year it may be 2 of them and next year 0. Idiot jumped the bar to steal tips and got tackled by an off-duty classmate. Didn't attend, as I had moved far from my school. But in the process, I was emailing the organizer and wanted to get in touch with an old friend. Figured she could pass my message on. She had the misfortune of having to tell me he passed away at 30 from diabetes complications. Rough day. And I didn't even attend. The high school I went to had a really big gang problem. A great many people didn't attend due to being in prison. Some of those who were in gangs in high school had worked their way through the ranks. One in particular was pretty high up. He decided to show up. It was generally peaceful. Until somebody decided to stick him with a knife. Then all HL broke loose. The dude that got shanked was a colossal ass to me through all of high school. And now he's bleeding profusely from multiple stab wounds. Being an off-duty medic, I did what I do. Half expecting him to bleed out on the gym floor. He didn't remember me. There wasn't that movie moment between us. I doubt he even recognized me. I just kept plugging holes and thinking I shouldn't have worn my nice shoes. Cops and EMS arrived. Few people got arrested. He survived. I ended up tossing my favorite dress shoes and a really nice pair of pants because they were too blood-soaked to rescue. Malibu. Am I right? Surprisingly not. Canada. Classic Canada. I wasn't even invited to the high school reunion. You're probably better off anyway. I have a feeling this will be me. If my school ever does a reunion. I wasn't unpopular. I wasn't popular either. I didn't really have a crowd as such. I played basketball. I'm a science nerd. I helped build the sets for the performing arts and music groups. I never really had a group and just kinda floated between everyone. I wonder sometimes if anyone actually remembers me. The class officers did a 5-year reunion on Thanksgiving weekend at a local bar. They only invited who they had liked. 30 to 40 people. One of the people they didn't invite had become a police officer who talked his supervisor into running a DUI checkpoint. Almost half the people who went ended up going to jail that night. 2 of the organizers ended up with drug charges as well as DWIs. The 10-year started off better. But still ended up being a cluster FK. They decided to go with a picnic the same place we had our senior picnic. One of the class officers had started a catering company and gave themselves the job. About 1/3 of the people ended up with food poisoning. Thankfully, COVID caused our 20-year to be cancelled. During our reunion, a social group of cool people that I had cordial relations with during high school but was never part of all met up and were pretty happy about it. Until it somehow came out over alcohol that all of them had been basically having orgies together during high school. Except one of them. He had always seemed like a core member of the group from the outside. Not unattractive or anything. But for some reason he was just never clued into the fact that all his friends were FG each other en masse for basically as long as they knew each other. There was some very eye-opening loud screaming. Someone confessed to me that I was his dream girl with his fiancée as his date to the reunion. I barely knew the guy in high school. Unfortunately for his fiancée, she didn't know anyone there and he refused to leave with her. He drunkenly said, "I'm not leaving with her. I'm leaving with you," to me. I told her to text me when their car was outside. Then, I whispered, "Let's go," in his ear. Walked him out. And put him in her car. I'll never forget the look on his face when he realized who was driving and I said, "Yeah. That's how tonight is going to end." Quote. But they still got married so. WTFFFFFFFFFFFFF. How many drinks did he have for that kind of info to spill out? Yeah. I'd say he had quite a few. Could barely walk. Not me but an former friend of mine. My wife and I went to her high school reunion at a brewery back in Michigan. The former friend of mine showed up after a bit. That friend happened to be in the same graduating class as my wife. I didn't attend the same school. Anyway, she gets there and I asked how she has been. Her response, "Really bad." She proceeds to tell me that her and her boyfriend split up. She has a low-paying job and so on. Also, it doesn't help that she really doesn't get along with most of her old classmates that attended. The night goes on and everyone is catching up and having a good time. My former friend says goodbye and goes out to the parking lot to her car. She comes back in saying someone ran over her car. Everyone assumed she meant someone hit her car. You know, like dented the bumper or something. Nope. Someone with a truck or SUV literally ran over her car. Drove on top of it. And took off. DN. I was class president and didn't get invited. I was no longer living in the country. And wouldn't have gone anyways. But dang. I wish I would have been invited. That's really strange. Where we live, the district contacted the class reps to put the reunions together. Been out of high school 30+ years. Never invited to one. My family is still at the same address as when I went to school. So there is no way it could have been overlooked. Now, I really don't care. A girl took drugs with some of her friends. She started going crazy and kissed a random guy in front of his boyfriend before spitting to his face and yelling, "You small DK. Never loved you, loser." I didn't knew the guy, but he cried and left the party immediately with his friends. That broke the ambiance for the rest of the night. What did she take? Assholeine. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more videos.